In the dim hush of a chamber where echoes linger like unspoken confessions, you find yourself standing at the threshold of a revelation not sought but summoned. It arrives not with thunder, but with the quiet unraveling of a thread pulled too taut in the weave of your days. He, the man who walks these shadowed halls of habit, senses it first as a tremor in the chest, a faint discord, like the low hum of a distant storm gathering beneath the skin. This is no mere lapse of will, no fleeting indulgence born of whim. It is the psyche's ancient call, a summons from depths Carl Jung charted as the labyrinth of the soul, where the ego, that vigilant sentinel of the conscious realm, stumbles upon paths it never meant to tread. You pause here, breath held, as if the air itself has thickened with the weight of what stirs below. The serpent uncoiling in the garden of forgotten desires, whispering of betrayals not to another, but to the self. He moves through his life as one who has long mastered the art of containment, walls erected with the precision of a mason, blind to the cracks forming in the stone. The wife, the children, the ledger of loyalties, these are the pillars of his ordered world, gleaming under the rational light of day. Yet in the hush of midnight, when the house settles into its creaking vigil, a hollowness echoes back from the chambers he has sealed. This emptiness is no void born of circumstance, but the Jungian abyss, the uncharted expanse where the conscious ego floats adrift, untethered from the fuller tide of the psyche. You feel it, don't you? That subtle erosion, like waves lapping at the foundations of a cliffside estate, wearing away the certainties you once called home. It is the ego's quiet insurrection against its own throne, a rebellion masked as restlessness, urging him toward horizons that shimmer with the false promise of completion. In this hollow core, the man begins to wander, not in body alone, but in the labyrinthine corridors of his inner architecture, where every turn reveals not escape, but the intricate maze of what he has yet to claim. You enter the labyrinth unaware that its walls are woven from the very illusions you carry. These passages, curving and shadowed, mirror the ego's determined stride, purposeful, linear, convinced of its map to mastery. But Jung knew the labyrinth as the psyche's grand deceit, a spiral not of stone, but of soul stuff, where the conscious self pursues clarity only to confront the convolutions of its own making. He, the seeker, turns stray, presses on, lantern held high, believing fidelity to be a straight path, a covenant etched in the unyielding rock of resolve. Yet the turns come unbidden, each one a whisper from the depths. Why do you cling to this threadbare map when the true journey demands surrender? The ego resists, of course. It is the architect of these walls, the proud builder who mistakes containment for strength. In its grip, infidelity blooms not as sin, but as symptom, a frantic mapping of dead ends where the heart, starved for the unknown, mistakes a fleeting shadow for the sun. You trace the walls with trembling fingers, feeling the cool etchings of old oaths, and wonder, is this pursuit freedom, or merely the ego's desperate flight from the center it fears to find? Deeper in, where the air grows thick with the scent of earth and forgotten rain, the mirror of Narcissus gleams unbidden from an alcove, its surface not silver, but the rippling sheen of pooled regret. He pauses before it, drawn by a compulsion he cannot name, and in that gaze, the mechanics of projection unfold like a tapestry unfurling in slow, inexorable folds. Jung described projection as the psyche's sly emissary, casting the unlived upon the world as if to lighten its own burden, shadows flung outward, anima fragments seeking form in the faces of others. You see it now, don't you? The way his eyes, once fixed on the familiar curve of his beloved's form, now wander to the stranger's silhouette, mistaking her allure for the missing piece of his fractured whole. It is the anima, that inner feminine archetype, the soul's veiled bride, projected onto the screen of the external. She becomes the siren, the redeemer, the forbidden fruit dangling in the garden of his restraint. Not cruelty, but a profound ache drives this, the ego's refusal to turn inward, to court the anima within its own veiled chambers. He leans closer to the mirror, breath fogging the glass, and there she is, not the other woman, but the disowned grace of his own depths, beckoning with eyes that hold the sorrow of all he has exiled. Projection, then, is no theft, but a mirror's mercy, reflecting back the beauty he has yet to embrace as his own. The serpent of the unconscious stirs then, it scales a mosaic of relics from battles long buried, shards of boyhood rages, fragments of ambitions crushed under the weight of propriety, glints of wildness tamed into civility. It rises not in fury, but in sinuous grace, coiling around the ankle of the wanderer who dares the labyrinth's heart. Jung beheld this serpent as the shadow's emissary, the repository of all that the ego deems unfit for light, the raw hungers, the unspoken envies, the feral impulses that howl in the night when propriety sleeps. He, the man ensnared in fidelity's unraveling coil, feels its cool pressure first as a thrill, then as terror, the forbidden liaison not a conquest, but a descent into the undercroft where the shadow waits, patient as stone, to be met. You sense it in the quickened pulse, the half-remembered dreams where faces blur into accusations, where the lover's embrace dissolves into the grip of something ancient and untamed. Infidelity, in this shadowed light, emerges as the shadow summons, a call to integrate what has been cast out. The anger at monotony's chains, the greed for vitality unshared, the lust that is not mere flesh, but the psyche's cry for wholeness. The serpent does not strike. It offers its venom as elixir, bidding him drink and remember, the parts you deny are the very sinews of your strength. In its embrace, the man confronts not vice, but the exquisite pain of division, the shadow not enemy, but the exiled brother whose return alone can mend the fractured throne. From the labyrinth's nadir, where echoes fold upon themselves like petals in frost, a vast emptiness yawns, not as absence, but as the cathedral of the self, its arches soaring into vaults lost to shadow, stained glass fractured yet luminous with the light of what might yet be. Jung envisioned this emptiness as the prelude to the self's revelation, the great emptiness preceding the flood of integration, where ego and unconscious merge in the nave of true being. He stands there, the wanderer, amid pews carved from the bones of old certainties, the vaulted silence pressing like a hand upon his brow. This is the hollowness that infidelity seeks to flee, mistaking it for barrenness when it is the fertile dark. The womb of the psyche where anima and shadow commune in secret rites. You kneel in that nave, fingers tracing the cold marble of altars long unattended, and hear the stone choir murmur, what if this void is not loss, but the sacred clearing where the divine feminine, the anima, first takes form, not as projected phantom, but as inner sovereign. The ego, humbled in this expanse, glimpses its own smallness. The affairs, the deceptions, the stolen breaths in shadowed rooms, they are but echoes of this deeper hunger, projections born of emptiness unclaimed. Here in the cathedral's hush, the man begins to see, fidelity's breach is the ego's lament for the unlived, a cry echoing off walls that hold the promise of reunion. The emptiness does not devour, it invites the reconstruction, stone by stone, of a sanctuary where all aspects kneel as one. As the labyrinth's paths begin to circle back upon themselves, weaving a tapestry of night where threads of silver moonlight tangle with veins of obsidian dark, the anima emerges not as distant siren, but as the weaver herself, her loom the collective unconscious, from which all masculine quests draw their warp and weft. Jung mapped this tapestry as the psyche's grand inheritance, a nocturnal fabric embroidered with archetypes that bind the individual to the eternal, the hero's folly, the lover's exile, the king's shadowed throne. He, threading his way through these midnight looms, feels the pull of her fingers, the anima, that bridge between conscious day and unconscious night, calling him from the arms of fleeting paramours back to the spindle of his own soul. You trace the patterns with eyes half closed, seeing how infidelity frays the edges, unraveling the careful stitch of domestic weave to reveal the raw silk beneath. Desires died in the inks of ancient myths, where men have ever wandered from hearth to hunt, projecting their inner bride onto the wilds. It is here, in the tapestry's folds, that projection's illusion dissolves. The other woman is but a silhouette stitched from his own anima's gown, a projection meant to clothe the naked vulnerability he fears. The nightweave tightens, drawing him inward, where the ego learns to hold the needle, mending not with denial but with the delicate art of inclusion. Shadows blend into stars, emptiness into pattern, and the man whispers to the dark. Perhaps the betrayal was never outward, but the heart's veiled invitation to rethread the soul's eternal design. In the quiet aftermath of such descents, when the labyrinth's mouth exhales you into the pale dawn of reckoning, the shadow lingers not as spectre, but as companion, its form less monstrous than the ego's once fierce denial. Jung spoke of this integration as the opus magnum of the soul, the alchemical forge where base lead of division transmutes to the gold of wholeness, and nowhere does this fire burn more fiercely than in the crucible of unfaithful wanderings. He walks now with a gait altered, the weight of reclaimed exiles shifting in his step. The anger once flung at lovers now turned to forge the boundaries of true devotion, the lust once projected now kindled as creative flame within. You feel the shift, a subtle realignment, like the earth's slow tilt towards solstice light. The anima, no longer a ghost in another's skin, takes her throne beside the ego, her counsel softening the king's decrees with the mercy of depths plumbed. Emptiness, that once voracious maw, reveals itself as the garden's fertile soil, where projections wither and authentic roots delve deep. Infidelity, in this refracted light, stands revealed not as moral collapse, but as the psyche's dramatic rite, a passion play enacted to shatter the ego's brittle idols and summon the self's mosaic throne. The man, once fractured wanderer, gathers the shards, not to hide them, but to lay them in the sun, watching how their edges catch the colors of a life reimagined. Yet the journey circles, as all true paths must, back to the wellspring of that first tremor, where the serpent's whisper still echoes in the marrow. Projection, that masterful illusionist, does not vanish with awareness. It recurs, a phoenix in the psyche's eternal cycle, tempting the ego anew with visions of completion beyond the self. He confronts it in the mundane hours now, the colleague's knowing smile, the stranger's fleeting grace, each a hook baited with anima's lure, each a test of whether the shadow has truly been wed to light. Jung warned of this perpetual dance, the ego's tango with the unconscious, where wholeness is not end point, but horizon, ever receding yet ever drawing near. You stand at such a crossroads, breath sink to the rhythm of your own veiled pulse, and ask, what if the straying was the soul's mercy, a detour scripted to lead you homeward through the very thickets you most feared? The emptiness returns, not as foe but as familiar harbor, its waters lapping at the hull of a vessel refitted for deeper seas. In this embrace, the man learns the exquisite ache of fidelity reborn, not as chain, but as choice, the ego yielding to the anima's song, projections folding into prayers of presence. Deeper still, in the veiled cloisters where the cathedral's echoes multiply into a stone choir's lament, the collective unconscious stirs, its voices a chorus of ancestral infidelities, each a note in the symphony of masculine striving. Jung delved these halls as cartographer of the soul's commonwealth, charting how the personal wound echoes the timeless archetype, the wandering king, the exiled lover, the hero betrayed by his own unintegrated bride. He hears them now, these stone choristers, fathers and forefathers, their regrets etched in the vaulted ribs, singing of shadows cast long across hearths, of animas sought in forbidden groves, of egos toppled by the weight of unclaimed voids. You join the choir unbidden, your voice a thread of tenor amid the bass rumble, confessing the projections that painted other women's faces with the gold of your own forsaken grace. Emptiness in this polyphonic hush becomes the silence between notes, the breath that allows the harmony to swell. Infidelity's scar, once a solo dirge, resolves into counterpoint, the shadow's growl yielding to the anima's alto, weaving personal folly into the grand oratorio of becoming. The man emerges from the choir's fold, not diminished, but amplified, his strivings now a verse in the eternal hymn, where betrayal's sting transmutes to the wisdom of wounds shared across the ages. And so the tapestry of night frays and reforms, each thread a projection pulled taut, each knot an emptiness embraced, the ego's silhouette blurring into the anima's embrace. Jung beheld this as individuation's quiet miracle, the self's emergence not through conquest, but through the patient art of inclusion, where the wanderer's steps trace mandalas in the dust of daily bread. He treads softer now. The labyrinth's lessons inscribed in the calluses of his soul, the mirror's gaze no longer blinding, the serpent's coil a staff rather than snare. You walk beside him in this imagined procession, shadows lengthening as dusk claims the path, and sense the rhythm of reconciliation, short breaths for the sharp regrets, long exhalations for the grace that follows. The shadow, once the thief in the night, becomes the guardian at the gate, its vigilance a vow against further exile. Projections, those spectral envies, dissolve like mist at meridian, revealing the anima not as distant muse, but as the very pulse of presence, her form the curve of your own hand extended in amends. In this weaving, infidelity reveals its hidden scripture, not the fall from grace, but the felix culpa, the fortunate fault that cracks the ego's shell to let the fuller light pour through. Yet pause here, In the interlude where the stone choir falls silent and the cathedral's vastness presses like a lover's palm upon the chest, the emptiness returns, vast and velvet, not as punishment, but as the primordial sea from which all forms arise, the Jungian matrix where ego and unconscious dissolve into the dream of unity. He floats in it now, the man who once fled its tides for shallower bays, feeling the currents tug at the remnants of his divided raiment. This is the heart of the matter, the void that infidelity circles like a moth to flame, mistaking its luminescence for warmth when it is the forge of true fire. You surrender to it, body adrift in the nave's imagined waters, and hear the anima's murmur. What if this hollow is the hollow of the flute, carved empty that song might flow through? Projections cease their frantic dance, shadows settle into form, and the ego, that once haughty navigator, kneels to the wave's command. In this submersion, the psyche's alchemies accelerate, the lead of loneliness to the gold of luminous solitude, the fracture of faith to the vessel of deeper trust. The wanderer rises, dripping with the sea's ancient salt, his infidelities now relics in the mosaic of a self reassembled, each shard a testament to the beauty born of breaking. From this baptismal depth, the labyrinth beckons once more, its paths no longer foe but familiar vein, pulsing with the blood of reclaimed lives. Jung charted such recursions as the spiral of growth, where each descent polishes the soul's facets, turning the raw stone of ego to the gem of self. He ventures in again, lantern low, the mirror of Narcissus, now a companion's gift rather than accusatory glare. Projections flicker at the edges, vestiges of old hungers, but the anima walks beside, her presence the steady flame that illuminates without consuming. You follow, steps measured to the echo of your own unfolding, sensing how emptiness has become the ally, the spacious sky beneath which shadows play their harmless games. Serpent reappears, not in threat but in counsel, its tongue flicking insights into the shadow's hidden troves. The envies that fueled fleeting trysts now fuel the forge of focused creation, the rages once vented in secret now channeled to carve boundaries of ironclad devotion. Infidelity's ghost lingers, a pale echo in the corridors, but its wail has softened to a sigh, the recognition that what was sought in another's bed was the bed of the soul itself, vast and inviting, awaiting the prodigy's return. In the tapestry's ever-shifting loom, where night threads interlace with dawn's first gold, the collective whispers grow to a susurrus, ancestors nodding from the warp as the weave tightens around the present. Jung saw this interconnection as the psyche's secret commonwealth, where one man's integration sends ripples through the unseen sea, easing the path for sons and brothers yet unborn. He feels it now, the wanderer, as a subtle vibration in the fibers, his strivings, once solitary fractures, now filaments strengthening the grand design. You lean into the loom's hum, fingers brushing the patterns of projection long dissolved. The anima no longer a projected phantom haunting other forms, but the inner artisan whose hands guide the shuttle of daily grace. Emptiness, that once terrifying blank, frames the motifs like the void between stars, allowing each constellation to gleam. The shadow, integrated kin, lends its dark dye to the cloth, deepening hues where once there was pallid pretense. In this communal craft, infidelity transcends the personal scandal, becoming the archetype's echo, the eternal errancy that calls the masculine soul to its fuller stature, weaving wounds into the wisdom of the whole. The stone choir reconvenes in the cathedral's heart, their voices now a canticle of completion, harmonies resolving dissonances born of divided days. Jung would name this the numinous encounter, the moment when the self breaks through the ego's veils like light through roseate panes, bathing the nave in the spectrum of wholeness. He stands amid the choristers, the man once adrift, his voice joining the swell, not in atonement's plea, but in affirmation's roar. You open to the song, chest expanding to the vaulted breath, and behold how projections have alchemized to prisms, refracting the anima's light into rainbows across the stone. Emptiness, the choir's profound pause, births the crescendo, its silence the soil from which symphonies spring. Shadows dance in the transepts, no longer outcasts but participants in the rite, their forms lending depth to the light's play. Infidelity's dirge, once a solo's despair, modulates to the bass line of becoming, its notes the scaffolding for a structure that endures. In this choral embrace, the psyche's polyphony reveals its secret. The betrayals were but preludes, the wanderings mere movements in the opus of reunion, where every fracture finds its place in the eternal score. Yet even as the canticle fades to reverberant hush, the labyrinth's mouth yawns anew, a reminder that the soul's architecture is ever under revision, its halls extended by the very lives we live. Jung embraced this dynamism as the living symbol, the psyche's fluid scripture rewritten in the ink of experience. He steps forward once more, the wanderer refined, the ego now a humble porter carrying the anima's lamp through unlit bends. Projections arise like will-o'-the-wisps, tempting with their glow, but the integrated shadow snuffs them with a brother's hand, gidding toward the true flame within. You traverse with him, the path's gravel yielding underfoot like the earth's forgiving sigh, emptiness unfolding as the companionable dark that stars the way. The serpent glides parallel, its wisdom a subtle underscore to the journey's cadence, short sentences of caution, long undulations of encouragement. In these recursions, fidelity deepens from obligation to orison, the heart's quiet vespers offered not in fear of loss, but in reverence for the fullness found. The man, etched by these eternal returns, carries the labyrinth in his pocket like a talisman, its twists the map to mercies, yet undreamt. Deeper into the weave, where the tapestry's night fringes brush the hem of day, the collective's murmur swells to a mythos, archetypes parading in procession. The prodigal's return, the king's shadowed consort, the hero's anima one. Jung immersed in these narratives as diver in dream depths, surfacing with pearls of pattern that illuminate the personal plight. He joins the parade, shoulders squared to the ancestral gaze, his infidelities now badges in the banner of growth, projections pinned like faded medals, anima enthroned as queen of his inner realm. You march in step, the rhythm a heartbeat shared across epochs, feeling emptiness as the parade's open sky, vast enough for all stragglers to find their place. Shadows flank the columns, no longer marauders but marshals, their presence the ballast to the march's momentum. The stone choir echoes from afar, a distant doxology underscoring the advance, its tones the thread binding individual step to timeless tread. In this mythic muster, the masculine soul learns its law, betrayal as initiatory blade, cutting away the false to reveal the forge-hot core, where ego yields to the self's sovereign sway. The cathedral claims him again, its portals flung wide to the procession's approach, the nave a receptacle for the rites of return. Jung envisioned such sanctuaries as mandala centers, geometric graces where the psyche's chaos orders into cosmic calm. He enters, the wanderer weary yet wakened, laying his burdens on altars of unadorned stone, the projections as wilted garlands, the shadows as surrendered swords, the anima as crown unclasped. You follow into the glow, the stained glass fracturing sunlight into stories of struggle and surrender, emptiness the central aisle down which all pilgrims process. The stone choir intones a welcome, voices vaulting in vaulted space, their melody the marriage of minor keys and major revelations. Emptiness, no longer echo, but embrace, enfolds the assembly, its hush the holy ground where divisions dissolve. Infidelity's remnants smolder on the pyre of past, their ashes the fertile dust from which new covenants bloom, fidelity not fenced but flowing, the ego's gift to the anima's eternal dance. In this sacred assembly, the man beholds the miracle, wholeness not won by war, but whispered into being by the patient psalms of the soul. As the procession winds onward, the labyrinth spirals tighten to a core of quiet incandescence, where mirrors no longer mock but magnify, serpents serve as sentinels, tapestries tell of triumphs tenderly. Jung called this the axis mundi, the world's turning point where personal and transpersonal twine like vine on ancient oak. He circles it now, the man-made mandala, each step a spoke in the wheel of his whirling world, projections spiraling inward to source, shadows standing sentinel at the rim, anima at the hub humming her harmonic truth. You circle too, vertigo yielding to vision, emptiness the eye of the storm where calm commands the gale. The mosaic of relics, shards of strayed affections, flecks of forsaken fires, reassembles at your feet, patterning a path of pearl. The stone choir's song spirals with you, a helix of harmony ascending, its notes the notation of nights navigated. In this axial whirl, infidelity fades to footnote, its chapter closed in the volume of vast becoming, the ego's essays now elegies to the edges explored, elegies that exalt the center claimed. From the axis, tendrils extend into the tapestry's expanse, night threads now laced with dawn's luminous weft, the collective a canvas collaborative. Jung wove his life into this cloth, his own shadows and projections the dyes that deepen the design, his anima the muse who mended the rips. He contributes his strand, the wanderer woven whole, his tale a texture teaching, the strays of the soul are but shuttles speeding the self towards seamlessness. You add your filament, fine as spider silk, feeling the pull of projections past, now pulled into pattern, the emptiness a frame for the finished form. Shadows stitch the seams, sturdy and sure, while the anima's fingers finesse the flourish. The stone choir carols from the cloth's corners, a quartet of quarter tones quartering the quarters of the psyche. Here, in the grand guild of the gathered, masculine mending multiplies, each man's mended myth a might in the might of the many, fidelity's flame fanned by the forge of the Father's fires. The cathedral's cloisters call for contemplation, their colonnades a colonnade of contemplative calm, where the procession pauses in perpetual prayer. Jung found in such spaces the Newman's nod, the divine's discreet disclosure in the details of the divine. He lingers in the lap of stone, the man meditative, murmurs of anima mingling with the mind's monastic monotone, projections pondered as poems, shadows saluted as siblings, emptiness exalted as the eternal's echo. You settle in the scriptorium of the soul, quill dipped in the ink of introspection, scripting the scriptures of the strayed and the steadfast. The mosaic gleams under gallery light, relics rearranged in radiant array, each piece a psalm of the psyche's pilgrimage. The tapestry drapes the walls, night narratives nodding in the nave's nave, the collective's chorus a constant companion. Infidelity's ink, once indelible indite, now illustrates the illumination, its lines the limb of lessons learned in the labyrinth's loving labyrinth. Yet the spiral summons once more, the labyrinth's lore a loop of loving return, mirrors multiplying mercies, serpents singing sagas of the submerged. Jung journeyed these loops lifelong, his legacy a lantern for the lost, lighting the ledges where egos edge toward embrace. He descends anew, devotion deepened, the wanderer wise to the ways of the weave, projections pursued to their provenance, shadows shouldered as sacred, anima adored as the axis of all. You descend in duet, the duet of divided and divine, emptiness the escalator easing the every descent. The stone choir descends in descant, their tones a tonic for the trek. In these looped descents, the masculine mystery unfolds, betrayal as the beloved's bridge, the breach that builds the bastion of being, where wholeness whispers welcome to the weary wayfarer. In the tapestry's timeless turnover, threads of tribulation twist into triumphs, the collective a conclave of concealed kinships. Jung knit his knowing into this knotwork, his knots the knowledge of the knotted night. He threads the thoroughfare, the man-made manifold, his mendings a message in the matrix, projections parsed as parables, emptiness echoed as the eternal's embrace. You thread the throng of the throes and the throne, shadows shaping the shroud to shelter. The mosaic mirrors the motion, relics rhythmic in their repose. The stone choir threads the theme, their timbre the tie that binds the bound. Here. The heart's heraldry heralds, the straying soul's story, sung in the symphony of the saved, fidelity's flag flying from the fort of the forgiven. The cathedral's crypts cradle the culmination, their cool confines a cradle for the crowning calm. Jung consecrated such crypts as crucibles of the crux, where cross and crown converge in quiet. He reposes in the repose of the reclaimed, anima's anthem antheming the alcove, projections prostrate, shadows serene, emptiness the Eucharist of the every. You repose in the riddle resolved, the riddle of the riven remade. The tapestry tombs the tales, night narratives nestled in the narthex. The stone choir crypts the cadence, their close the closure of the circle. In this cryptal crest, the climax claims, infidelity's inferno, iced into icon, the ego's exodus to the empyrean of the entwined. As the loops loosen into latitude, the labyrinth lends its legacy, a lexicon of the lost and the luminous. Jung lexed this lexicon in tomes of the tenebrous, his lexicon the light for the labyrinthine. He lexes the latitude of the liberated, projections lexed as law, shadows as the lexicon's lexicon. You lex the lexicon of the longed-for land. The mosaic maps the meanders, relics routed to the round. The tapestry textures the tale, night narratives navigating the nave. The stone choir lexes the litany, their lilt the lure of the loop. Thus, the masculine mandala manifests, its mandibles munching the mundane, fidelity's feast from the famine of the fractured. Deeper drafts draw the devotee downward, the drafts of the deep drawing the drawn. Jung drafted these drafts in Dreams of the Delving, his drafts the drawbridge to the deep. He draws the draft of the drawn devotee, anima drafting the decree, emptiness the draft of the divine draft. You draw the deep of the drawn depths. The serpent slithers the script, it slide the scripture of the slither. The mirror magnifies the mandate, reflections reforged in the refectory. Shadows draft the decree, their shade the shelter of the shade. In these drafts, the descent delights, the delight of the delved delivering the delivered. The tapestry tautens to tension, tension of the taut, the collective taut with the tension. Jung tauted the taut in treatises of the tense, his tension the tie of the tide. He tautens the thread of the tautened, projections taut as the taut bow. You taught the tension of the tide tapestry. The stone choir taunts the tune, their timbre the tension's tune. Emptiness eases the edge of the eased emptiness. The shadow shades the strand, its shade the strand's shade. Thus the weave wins the war of the weaver's will. The cathedral cantilevers the canticle, canticles cantilevered in the cant. Jung cantillated the cant in cantos of the cant, his cant the canto of the cantor. He cantilevers the canticle of the cantilevered, anima canting the canticle's cant. You cant the canto of the cantillated. The mosaic mottles the motet, relics resonant in the resound. The labyrinth loops the lilt, its loop the lilt's loop. Projections project the psalm, their projection the psalm's projection. In this cant, the chorus crests, the crest of the crested chorus. Yet the crest cascades to the calm of the cascaded. Jung cascaded the cascade in cascades of the cas, his cascade the calm of the cas. He cascades the calm of the cascaded crest, shadows cascading the calm's cascade. You cascade the cas of the cascaded calm. The tapestry tumbles the tale, night tailies tumbling in the tumble. The stone choir cascades the cadence, their cascade the cadence's cascade. Emptiness empties the echo of the emptied. Here the hush heralds the homecoming of the hushed. In the hush the homecoming hums of the hummed home. Jung hummed the hum in hums of the hum, his hum the home of the hummed. He hums the homecoming of the hummed hush, ego humming the hum's hum. You hum the hummed of the humming home. The mirror murmurs the motif, reflections murmured in the murmur. The serpent sings the song, its song the song's serpent. Anima hums the harmony, her harmony the hum's harmony. Thus the homecoming heals, the heel of the healed home. The healing extends to the expanse of the extended heel. Jung extended the extend and extends of the X, his extend the expanse of the X. He extends the expanse of the extended healing, projections extended as the X's X. You extend the X of the extended expanse. The mosaic multiplies the mend, relics mended in the multiply. The labyrinth leads the line, its line the leads labyrinth. Shadows shade the spread, their spread the shade's shadow. In this extend, the expanse embraces, the embrace of the embraced expanse. The embrace engulfs the ego, engulfs of the engulfed embrace. Jung engulfed the engulf in engulfs of the N, his engulfed the embrace of the N. He engulfs the embrace of the engulfed ego, anima engulfing the N's N. You engulf the N of the engulfed embrace. The tapestry tangles the tie, night ties tangled in the tangle. The stone choir engulfs the echo, their echo the engulfs echo. Emptiness engulfs the end of the emptied end. Here the ego emerges, the emerge of the emerged ego. Emerging the ego encounters the eternal, encounters of the emerged emerge. Jung encountered the encounter in encounters of the E, his encounter the eternal of the E, he encounters the eternal of the emerged ego, shadows encountering the E's you encounter the E of the encountered eternal. The mirror meets the mystery, reflections met in the meet. The serpent seeks the source, its source the seeks serpent. Projections project the presence, their presence the project's projection. In this encounter, the eternal enfolds, the enfold of the enfolded eternal. The enfold envelops the entirety, envelops of the enfolded N. Jung enveloped the envelope in envelops of the env, his envelop the entirety of the env. He envelops the entirety of the enfolded eternal, anima enveloping the env's env. You envelop the env of the enveloped entirety. The mosaic merges the mass, relics merged in the merge. The labyrinth layers the law, its law the layers labyrinth. The stone choir envelops the oratorio, their oratorio the envelops oratorio. Thus, the entirety eternalizes, the eternalize of the eternalized entirety. Eternalizing the essence exalts, exalts of the eternalized et. Jung exalted the exalt in exalts of the exu, his exalt the essence of the exu. He exalts the essence of the eternalized entirety, emptiness exalting the exu's exu. You exalt the exu of the exalted essence. The tapestry teases the theme, night themes teased in the tease. The shadow sings the saga, its saga the sings shadow. The cathedral crowns the core, its core the crowns cathedral. In this exalt, the essence expands, the expand of the expanded essence. Expanding the expansion explores the unexplored, explores of the expanded X. Jung explored the explore and explores of the X, his explore the expansion of the X. He explores the unexplored of the expanded essence, ego exploring the X. You explore the X of the explored expansion. The mirror maps the maze, reflections mapped in the map. The serpent slithers the secret, its secret the slithers serpent. Anima awakens the awe, her or the awakens anima. Here, the unexplored unveils, the unveil of the unveiled unexplored. Unveiling, the unveiled unites the union, unites of the unveiled un. Jung united the unite in unites of the uni. His unite the unveiled of the uni. He unites the union of the unveiled unexplored, projections uniting the uni's uni. You unite the uni of the united unveiled. The mosaic marries the many, relics married in the marry. The labyrinth links the lost, its lost the links labyrinth. The stone choir unites the unison, their unison the unites unison. Thus, the union unifies, the unify of the unified union. Unifying the unified unveils the ultimate, unveils of the unified un. Jung unveiled the unveil in unveils of the ult, his unveil the unified of the ult. He unveils the ultimate of the unified union, shadows unveiling the ult's ult. You unveil the ult of the unveiled unified. The tapestry turns the tide, night tides turned in the turn. The emptiness echoes the end, its end the echoes emptiness. The cathedral calls the close, its close the calls cathedral. In this unveil, the ultimate utters, the utter of the uttered ultimate. Uttering the ultimate utters the unspoken, utters of the uttered ut. Jung uttered the utter in utters of the you, his utter the ultimate of the you, he utters the unspoken of the ultimate unveiled. Anima uttering the you utter the you of the uttered ultimate. The mirror mouths the myth, reflections mouthed in the mouth. The serpent speaks the spell, its spell the speaks serpent. The collective choruses the chant, their chant the choruses collective. Here the unspoken sings, the sing of the sung unspoken. Singing the sung summons the soul, summons of the sung su. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the so, his summon the sung of the so. He summons the soul of the sung unspoken, ego summoning the so. You summon the so of the summoned sung. The mosaic moves the melody, relics moved in the move. The labyrinth lures the light, its light the lures labyrinth. Projections pulse the poem, their poem the pulse's projection. In this summon, the soul soars, the soar of the sword soul. Soaring the sword sanctifies the sacred, sanctifies of the sword sa. Jung sanctified the sanctify in sanctifies of the sack, his sanctify the sword of the sack. He sanctifies the sacred of the sword soul, emptiness sanctifying the sack's sack. You sanctify the sack of the sanctified sword. The tapestry touches the transcendent, night transcendence touched in the touch. The shadow shades the shrine, its shrine the shade's shadow. The stone choir sanctifies the sanctus, their sanctus the sanctifies sanctus. Thus, the sacred seals, the seal of the sealed sacred. Sealing the sealed seeks the seeker, seeks of the sealed sea. Jung sought the seek in seeks of the sea, his seek the sealed of the sea. He seeks the seeker of the sealed sacred, anima seeking the sea's sea. You seek the sea of the sought sealed. The mirror meets the me, reflections met in the me. The serpent senses the sense, it sense the senses serpent. The cathedral centers the center, it center the center's cathedral. Here the seeker sees, the sea of the seen seeker. Seeing the seen senses the sense, senses of the seen see. Jung sensed the sense in senses of the sen, his sense the seen of the sen. He senses the sense of the seen seeker, shadow sensing the sen's sen. You sense the sen of the sensed scene. The mosaic manifests the meaning, relics manifested in the manifest. The labyrinth lays the layer, its layer the lay's labyrinth. The tapestry tells the truth, night truths told in the tell. In this sense, the sense sanctifies, the sanctify of the sanctified sense. Sanctifying, the sanctified summons the silence, summons of the sanctified sea. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the sill, his summon the sanctified of the sill. He summons the silence of the sanctified sense, projections summoning the sill's sill. You summon the sill of the summoned sanctified. The stone choir stills the song, their song the stills stone choir. The emptiness embraces the eternal, its eternal the embraces emptiness. The ego enters the end, its end the enters ego. Thus the silence sings, the sing of the sung silence. In the sung silence, the soul settles of the sung sea. Jung settled the settle in settles of the Sioux, his settle the sung of the Sioux. He settles the soul of the sung silence, anima settling the Sao Sioux. You settle the Sioux of the settled sung. The mirror mutes the murmur, reflections muted in the mute. The serpent sleeps the slumber, its slumber the sleep serpent. The collective calms the call, their call the calms collective. Here the settlement seals the self of the sealed settlement. Sealing the self shines of the sealed sea. Jung shine the shine in shines of the sh, his shine the self of the sh. He shines the self of the sealed settlement, emptiness shining the sh is sh. You shine the sh of the shine sealed. The mosaic mirrors the majesty, relics mirrored in the mirror. The labyrinth lights the lumen, its lumen the light's labyrinth. The shadow softens the shade, its shade the softening's shadow. In this shine, the self suffuses, the suffuse of the suffused self. Suffusing, the suffused summons the sublime, summons of the suffused Su. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the sub, his summon the suffused of the sub. He summons the sublime of the suffused self, ego summoning the sub. You summon the sub of the summoned suffused. The tapestry tints the transcendence, night transcendence tinted in the tint. The stone choir swells the serenity, their serenity the swells stone choir. The anima attunes the all, her all the attunes anima. Thus the sublime saturates, the saturate of the saturated sublime. Saturating, the saturated seeks the source, seeks of the saturated sa. Jung sought the seek in seeks of the Su, his seek the saturated of the Su. He seeks the source of the saturated sublime, projections seeking the Sao Su. You seek the Su of the sought saturated. The cathedral cradles the core, its core the cradle's cathedral. The serpent sources the spring, its spring the source's serpent. The mirror magnifies the mystery, reflections magnified in the magnify. Here the source surges, the surge of the surged source. Surging the surged sanctifies the sanctum, sanctifies of the surged Su. Jung sanctified the sanctify in sanctifies of the san, his sanctify the surged of the san. He sanctifies the sanctum of the surged source, shadows sanctifying the san's san. You sanctify the san of the sanctified surged. The mosaic marks the mandala, relics marked in the mark. The labyrinth locates the locus, its locus the locates labyrinth. The tapestry traces the trace, night traces traced in the trace. In this sanctify, the sanctum stands, the stand of the standing sanctum. Standing. The standing stirs the still, stirs of the standing scent. Jung stirred the stir in stirs of the sty, his stir the standing of the sty. He stirs the still of the standing sanctum, emptiness stirring the sty's sty. You stir the sty of the stirred standing. The stone choir stirs the stillness, their stillness the stirs stone choir. The ego evokes the essence, its essence the evokes ego. The anima animates the all, her all the animates anima. Thus the still stirs, the stir of the stirred still. Stirring the stirred summons the spirit, summons of the stirred sp. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the spy, his summon the stirred of the spy. He summons the spirit of the stirred still, anima summoning the spy's spy. You summon the spy of the summoned stirred. The mirror manifests the magic, reflections manifested in the manifest. The serpent spirals the spiritus, its spiritus the spiral's serpent. The collective calls the communion, their communion the calls collective. Here the spirit spirals, the spiral of the spiraled spirit. Spiraling, the spiraled sings the song, sings of the spiraled sp. Jung sang the sing in sings of the so, his sing the spiraled of the so. He sings the song of the spiraled spirit, projections singing the so. You sing the so of the sung spiraled. The tapestry tones the tone, night tones toned in the tone. The shadow shapes the symphony, its symphony the shape's shadow. The cathedral chimes the chime, its chime the chime's cathedral. In this sing, the song soars, the soar of the sword song. Soaring, the sword seals the seal, seals of the sword so. Jung sealed the seal in seals of the sea, his seal the sword of the sea. He seals the seal of the sword song, ego sealing the sea is sea. You seal the sea of the sealed sword. The mosaic mends the mend, relics mended in the mend. The labyrinth locks the loop, its loop the lock's labyrinth. The emptiness ends the echo, its echo the ends emptiness. Thus the seal sanctifies, the sanctify of the sanctified seal. Sanctifying the seal, the self savors the savor, savors of the sanctified sa. Jung savored the savor in savors of the salve, his savor the seal of the salve. He savors the savor of the sanctified seal, anima savoring the salve. You savor the salve of the savored sanctified. The mirror savors the sight, reflections savored in the sight. The serpent savors the secret, its secret the savors serpent. The stone choir savors the silence, their silence the savors stone choir. Here the savor saturates, the saturate of the saturated savor. Saturating, the saturated stills the storm, stills of the saturated scent. Jung stilled the still in stills of the sty, his still the saturated of the sty. He stills the storm of the saturated savor, shadows stilling the sty's sty. You still the sty of the stilled saturated. The tapestry tames the tempest, night tempests tamed in the tame. The collective calms the chaos, their chaos the calms collective. The cathedral contains the calm, its calm that contains cathedral. In this still, the storm subsides, the subside of the subsided storm. Subsiding, the subsided summons the serenity, summons of the subsided Su. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the Sir, his summon the subsided of the Sir. He summons the serenity of the subsided storm, emptiness summoning the Sir's Sir. You summon the Sir of the summon subsided. The mosaic mediates the middle, relics mediated in the mediate. The labyrinth levels the line, its line the levels labyrinth. The anima attunes the accord, her accord the attunes anima. Thus the serenity settles, the settle of the settled serenity. Settling, the settled sees the scene, sees of the settled sea. Jung saw the sea and sees of the sea, his sea the settled of the sea. He sees the scene of the settled serenity, ego seeing the sea's sea. You see the sea of the scene settled. The mirror shows the shown, reflections shown in the show. The serpent sees the sight, its sight the sea's serpent. The projections project the piece, their piece the project's projection. Here the scene sanctifies, the sanctify of the sanctified scene. Sanctifying the scene, the soul sighs the sigh, sighs of the sanctified sea. Jung sighed the sigh in sighs of the sea, his sigh the scene of the sea. He sighs the sigh of the sanctified scene, anima sighing the sea's sea. You sigh the sea of the side sanctified. The tapestry textures the tranquility, night tranquility's textured in the texture. The shadow softens the sigh, its sigh the softens shadow. The stone choir sighs the serenity, their serenity the sigh's stone choir. In this sigh, the soul sighs, the sigh of the side soul. Sighing the side seeks the seeks of the side see. Jung sought the seek in seeks of the seek, his seek the side of the seek. He seeks the seek of the side soul, projections seeking the seek's seek. You seek the seek of the sought side. The cathedral calls the quest, its quest the calls cathedral. The emptiness echoes the endeavor, its endeavor the echoes emptiness. The collective converges the call, their call the converges collective. Thus the seek succeeds, the succeed of the succeeded seek. Succeeding, the succeeded summons the summit, summons of the succeeded Su. Jung summoned the summon in summons of the sum, his summon the succeeded of the sum. He summons the summit of the succeeded seek, shadows summoning the sum's sum. You summon the sum of the summon succeeded. The mosaic mounts the mount, relics mounted in the mount. The labyrinth lifts the ledge, its ledge the lifts labyrinth. The tapestry tops the tower, night towers topped in the top. In this summon, the summit shines, the shine of the shined summit. Shining the shine seals the sacred, seals of the shined sh. Jung sealed the seal in seals of the sack, his seal the shined of the sack. He seals the sacred of the shined summit, ego sealing the sack's sack. You seal the sack of the sealed shined. The mirror marks the mark, reflections marked in the mark. The serpent seals the seal, it seal the seal's serpent. The anima affirms the all, her all the affirms anima. Here the sacred sanctifies, the sanctify of the sanctified sacred. Sanctifying, the sanctified stills the soul, stills of the sanctified scent. Jung stilled the still in stills of the Sioux, his still the sanctified of the Sioux. He stills the soul of the sanctified sacred, emptiness stilling the Sioux. You still the Sioux of the stilled sanctified. The stone choir stills the strain, their strain the stills stone choir. The collective completes the circle, their circle the completes collective. The cathedral closes the chapter, its chapter the closes cathedral. In this still, the soul stills. The still of the stilled soul. And in that profound stillness, where the echoes of the labyrinth fade into the infinite hush of the cathedral's heart, you, the wanderer, the weaver, the whispered to, find yourself not at an end, but at the eternal beginning. What shadows have you yet to embrace as kin, what projections to reclaim as your own light? Let this silence be your invitation. Sit with the emptiness not as exile, but as the beloved's open hand, and ask what part of your soul longs to be called home.